The things I've done in my life have required a lot of years of work before they took off. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Stay hungry, stay foolish. You can't ask customers what they want and then try to give that to them. By the time you get it built, they'll want something new. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have a faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. For the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Things don't have to change the world to be important. Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. I want to put a ding in the universe. My model for business is the Beatles. They were four guys that kept each other's negative tendencies in check. They balanced each other. And the total was greater than the sum of the parts. It's not the tools that you have faith in. Tools are just tools. They work or they don't work. It's people you have faith in or not. Yeah, sure, I'm still optimistic. I get pessimistic sometimes, but not for long. Throughout my years in business, I discovered something. I would always ask why you do things. The answers that I would invariably get are, oh, that's just the way things are done around here. Nobody knows why they do what they do. Nobody thinks very deeply about things in business. It took us 3 years to build the next computer. If we'd given customers what they said they wanted, we'd have built a computer they'd have been happy with a year after we spoke to them, not something they'd want now. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. Creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't really do it, they just saw something. It seemed obvious to them after a while. That's because they were able to connect experiences they've had and synthesize new things. I'm an optimist in the sense that I believe humans are noble and honorable, and some of them are really smart. I have a very optimistic view of individuals. I think money is a wonderful thing because it enables you to do things. It enables you to invest in ideas that don't have a short-term payback. A lot of companies have chosen to downsize, and maybe that was the right thing for them. We chose a different path. Our belief was that if we kept putting great products in front of customers, they would continue to open their wallets. It's hard to tell with these internet startups if they're really interested in building companies or if they're just interested in the money. I can tell you, though, if they don't really want to build a company, they won't look into it. That's because it's so hard that if you don't have a passion, you'll give up. Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. That's been one of my mantras: focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. My favorite things in life don't cost any money. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It is life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. I believe life is an intelligent thing, that things aren't random. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful, that's what matters to me. When you're young, you look at television and think, there's a conspiracy. The networks have conspired to dumb us down. But when you get a little older, you realize that's not true. The networks are in business to give people exactly what they want. Our goal is to make the best devices in the world, not to be the biggest. To turn really interesting ideas and fledgling technologies into a company that can continue to innovate for years, it requires a lot of disciplines. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. I was lucky, I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. 35. We don't get a chance to do that many things, and everyone should be really excellent. Because this is our life. Life is brief, and then you die, you know? And we've all chosen to do this with our lives. So it better be damn good. It better be worth it. I think if you do something and it turns out pretty good, then you should go do something else wonderful, not dwell on it for too long. Just figure out what's next. Quality is much better than quantity. One home run is much better than two doubles. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and the square holes. The ones who see things differently, they're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. I'm as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the not successful ones is pure perseverance. Bottom line is, I didn't return to Apple to make a fortune. I've been very lucky in my life and already have one. When I was 25, my net worth was $100 million or so. I decided then that I wasn't going to let it ruin my life. There's no way you could ever spend it all, and I don't view wealth as something that validates my intelligence. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to be burning with an idea, or a problem, or a wrong that you want to right. If you're not passionate enough from the start, you'll never stick it out. When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is and your life is just to live your life inside the world. Try not to bash into the walls too much. Try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. That's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. It's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Details matter. It's worth waiting to get it right. If you don't love something, you're not going to go the extra mile, work the extra weekend, challenge the status quo as much. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here? If you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time. Let's go invent tomorrow instead of worrying about what happened yesterday. Innovation has nothing to do with how many Rand dollars you have. When Apple came up with the Mac, IBM was spending at least 100 times more on Rand. It's not about money. It's about the people you have, how you're led, and how much you get it. I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the not successful ones is pure perseverance. It is so hard. You put so much of your life into this thing. There are such rough moments in time that I think most people give up. I don't blame them. It's really tough and it consumes your life. If you've got a family and you're in the early days of a company, I can't imagine how one could do it. I'm sure it's been done, but it's rough. It's pretty much an 18-hour day job, 7 days a week for a while. Unless you have a lot of passion about this, you're not going to survive. The greatest thing is when you do put your heart and soul into something over an extended period of time, and it is worth it. I was worth about over $1 million when I was 23 and over $10 million when I was 24 and over $100 million when I was 25, and it wasn't that important because I never did it for the money. You've got to start with the customer experience and work back toward the technology, not the other way around. When you first start off trying to solve a problem, the first solutions you come up with are very complex, and most people stop there. But if you keep going and live with the problem and peel more layers of the onion off, you can oftentimes arrive at some very elegant and simple solutions. Most people just don't put in the time or energy to get there. We believe that customers are smart and want objects which are well thought through. I don't really care about being right, I just care about success. You'll find a lot of people that will tell you I had a very strong opinion, and they presented evidence to the contrary, and 5 minutes later I changed my mind. I don't mind being wrong, and I'll admit that I'm wrong a lot. It doesn't really matter to me too much. What matters to me is that we do the right thing. My job is not to be easy on people. My job is to take these great people we have and to push them and make them even better. The doers are the major thinkers. The people that really create the things that change this industry are both the thinker and doer in one person. You can build your own things that other people can use. And once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. I always advise people to don't wait. Do something when you are young, when you have no responsibilities. Believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart. Don't take it all too seriously. If you want to live your life in a creative way, as an artist, you have to not look back too much. You have to be willing to take whatever you've done and whoever you were and throw them away. People judge you on your performance, so focus on the outcome. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love. On being fired from Apple and called back 12 years later, what a circle of life. You know, life is just always mysterious and surprising, and you never know what's around the next corner. I think the things you most regret in life are things you didn't do. What you really regret was never asking that girl to dance. If you don't love it, you're going to fail. If you really look at the ones that ended up, you know, being successful in the eyes of society and the ones that didn't, oftentimes, it's the ones who were successful and loved what they did so they could persevere, you know, when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? I've read something that Bill Gates said about 6 months ago. He said, I worked really, really hard in my 20s. And I know what he means because I worked really, really hard in my 20s too. Literally, you know, 7 days a week, a lot of hours every day. And it actually is a wonderful thing to do because you can get a lot done. But you can't do it forever, and you don't want to do it forever, and you have to come up with ways of figuring out what the most important things are and working with other people even more. Most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. Life goes on and you learn from it. You gotta act. And you've gotta be willing to fail. You gotta be ready to crash and burn, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far. I have been trained to think in units of time that are measured in several years. With what I've chosen to do with my life, even a small thing takes a few years. To do anything of magnitude takes at least 5 years, more likely 7 or 8. Rightfully or wrongfully, that's how I think. The secret of my success is that we have gone to exceptional lengths to hire the best people in the world. And when you're in a field where the dynamic range is 25 to 1, boy, does it pay off. I think everybody in this country should learn how to program a computer, should learn a computer language because it teaches you how to think. People get stuck as they get older. Our minds are sort of electrochemical computers. Your thoughts construct patterns like scaffolding in your mind. You are really etching chemical patterns. In most cases, people get stuck in those patterns, just like grooves in a record, and they never get out of them. It's a rare person who etches grooves that are other than a specific way of looking at things, a specific way of questioning things. I think all of us need to be on guard against arrogance, which knocks at the door whenever you're successful. Invest time in yourself to have great experiences that are going to enrich you. Human minds settle into fixed ways of looking at the world, and that's always been true, and it's probably always going to be true. Apple is a $30 billion company, yet we've got less than 30 major products. I don't know if that's ever been done before. Certainly the great consumer electronics companies of the past had thousands of products. We tend to focus much more. People think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Did you find these Steve Jobs quotes inspiring? If you like these Steve Jobs quotes, then please share this post to help others.